we're going to be approaching 800,000 euros just in Q1, which is for me like an unbelievable sum. But I'm the most dissatisfied person ever, if you can say that, because I know what we need to do in order to continue that growth.
If you are the kind of person who's made to be a CEO, you're never going to be satisfied. It just doesn't end, because that's what makes you good.
And I guess that led me to now running almost 65 people at Flow Ninja and working with some of the biggest brands in the world.
Web professionals will exist as long as the internet exists. The only time we're gone is if the internet is gone, and we're going to have far bigger problems to deal with at that point.
Even if AI takes over everything and you can create a website in 2 prompts, people are still going to pay somebody to do those 2 prompts.
And something that people don't talk about enough is like, anyone can create a website now with AI. Anyone's been able to create a website for like ever at this point. I'm here with Uros Mikic. If you don't know who Uros is, he is the founder and CEO of Flow Ninja, which, can I just say you guys are the best Webflow agency in the world? Like, I think that's pretty agreed upon at this point. I don't know who your competitors are.
I'm not going to disagree with you. I'm not going to be the one that's going to say that, but I'm not going to disagree with you here on the call.
Best Webflow agency in the world. Uros is also a pretty young guy. He has a really interesting story. And I think for everyone in our industry, it's going to be really, really interesting to hear just kind of his thoughts on everything. So first things first, for anyone who doesn't know you, Uros, who are you?
My name is Uros and I'm 26 years old. I'm turning 27 in about a few months. And yeah, I mean, I'm just a kid from niche who I guess didn't want to give up at any point. I had a lot of spite in me. So since my childhood, I always wanted to find a way out. And I guess that led me to now running almost 65 people at Flow Ninja and working with some of the biggest brands in the world. So that's maybe the short story, but I think we're going to be answering the longer story here in this episode.
Yes, for sure. Spite is a really powerful thing. That is basically what brought me to this point as well. So I am 24, so we are pretty
I would never believe that. Every single time when I saw you, I thought that you're like 5 years older than me, but yes, you are.
No, I was born in 2001, and when we were starting, I mean, I don't know how it was for you, and I really want to dig into like what brought you to this point in a little bit more detail, but for me, it was like my parents, you know, they love me, they believe in me, but they're like, you can't make money on a computer. Come on. And so I had this thing in me. I'm like, I had to prove them wrong. And that was the spite that got me to where I'm at. So walk me through it. Like from the first thing that seems relevant to you, what was your arc? How did it look like going from just a kid growing up in niche to eventually what you became today?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that maybe until recently, spite was the biggest thing that kind of drives you at one point, but right now it's like more curiosity. So that's a good transition slowly. But as I was kind of growing up, I come from a city which didn't have a lot of opportunities. I was literally selling fruit on a fruit shop with my parents. So like that was how we made money. My dad had a full-time job, which was not nearly enough for him to kind of like basically cover all of our expenses. So he had to work 2 full-time jobs. My mom was also working at a fruit shop, and whatever I wanted to buy early on, they kind of made me work for it, which was, I think, the best thing ever. So pretty young, I think like 12 or 13, if I wanted to buy a pair of sneakers or whatever, I had to go kind of to sell and kind of to work for the weekend. Or the summer break, I had to work. So in general, early on in my childhood, I realized that you kind of need to work a lot in order to kind of get anything like, let's say, beneficial in life. So that kind of led me to start thinking about what do I want to do in my life. And I kind of had goals that I want to live an easier life, that I want to help my parents live an easier life, because it's definitely not easy waking up at 6 a.m., finishing at 6, 7 p.m., doing some more work, and then kind of doing that rinse and repeat. It was pretty hectic and wild time at that point. So because of that, I kind of realized there is no way I'm going to spend my life living the same life that my dad was living, because it was really, really hard at that point. And I just kind of got into computers. And I think from day one, since I got into computers, I found ways to earn money. I have videos from 2012 on YouTube of me recording gameplays of League of Legends and having the referral link down below. So I had like the referral link, and when people get to the 30th level on League of Legends, I get RP points, and then I can sell them to my friends, or I can be the cool kid who doesn't have money but has all of the skins in League of Legends. So that's the peak of, like success you can have when you're like, I don't know, 14, 15 years old. So with that said, I kind of always try to find a way to earn money, whatever I was doing, whether that was like, let's say, playing games. Afterwards, I had an Instagram account called Become Entrepreneur. So then I also found ways to grow that account, because at that point, growing on Instagram was really, really easy. And I was also a smartass that thought that Instagram is going to fail. So I sold that kind of for a couple $1,000s when I was younger. But you can say that I would probably have 1 million followers on Instagram if I continue doing that. But who knows where would that lead me to in general.
Happens. So gaming, honestly, it was the same thing for me. It was Roblox. I was trying, that was the first thing that got me into design, was I was trying to just make skins for Roblox. And then I'm like, hey, I can sell these things. So then I started to get a little bit more into it, and exactly the same thing, gaming. And what you just said, so I don't know if kids are in your future or anything like that. You know, I have kids. And that is one thing I feel the exact same way. You know, every parent, they're doing their best to teach their kid, but the best thing my parents ever did was the exact same thing. I want a new Xbox. They're like, you know, cool, you want a new Xbox, you're going to have to work for that. So I had to like go up to them with a pitch. It was like, I will do the dishes for 6 months and cut the grass and do this and do that. And they're like, no, not enough. So I had to like revise my pitch. And that was, I think, the most important thing in my upbringing that brought me to that point. And I noticed a lot of similar trends with the people who started and then ended up doing well in our industry. So that is super cool to hear. Now, what actually got you into Webflow? So you have a full-on Webflow agency. Some stuff happened in between there. Like, how did that look for you? Did you start making websites with other platforms? How did that start? And then what brought you to Webflow?
Yeah, so like when I had the Instagram account, I built my first website on WordPress. So I was literally selling an ebook, which was kind of private label rights. So like you can buy rights to a book, you can package it up, and you can sell it afterwards. And that's the first time when I actually created a website. But at that point, I did not know how to code. And whatever I wanted to do on WordPress, it required me to write PHP, which I did not know, or to pay for plugins, which I was always searching for solutions, how to download those plugins for free. And then you get viruses inside of your WordPress setup, and like all of that becomes a little bit of a nightmare to manage. So I was kind of trying to find a better way to develop websites. Then I tried kind of Shopify. That was also not customizable to the point that I needed. And it also we did not have Stripe in Serbia. So like all of that was also problematic. But I managed to open a company. Like I think I opened a US company when I was 16 or 17 years old. And I was getting money on my account, not on my account, but on my brother's account, because I did not have 18 years old. And you cannot get foreign currency in Serbia if you're not 18 plus. So I was literally getting my first money ever on my brother's account, and he was getting me the card, and I was kind of paying on the money, which was a fun topic. But yeah, that aside, I tried like Shopify, Squarespace, Wix, I tried WordPress, and then only when I found Webflow, I kind of found my zest, or how do you want to call it, that I can go in a platform and I don't know something, but I'm learning as I'm building. So I kind of felt that every day when I spent like 8 hours inside of the platform, I knew something more, but also I knew something more about the web, because it was built on the core principles of web. And I guess I never looked back since then. So like since then, it's been a constant learning curve in every single role that I've done, because I've had 2 full-time roles before opening the agency. Webflow was always a great tool for me to use no matter what I was doing. And I always felt that I'm not wasting time, because sometimes when you have a platform and you learn that platform, you've kind of spent all of your time just to learn that specific area of the platform, and you can use it only there. Versus with Webflow, you're technically learning HTML, CSS, front end, then later on back end. So you're actually understanding how the web works with having a platform. So even if the platform maybe goes away, I was always feeling that I actually learned something, and that I'm going to be able to apply that knowledge to something else afterwards.
Yeah, a lot of people don't talk about that quite so much. Like if you have your, for example, let's say Shopify set up with your customizable theme, if Shopify, which this isn't going to happen, but if Shopify just disappears one day, that's useless. You know, you knew how to click buttons in Shopify and that's it. Whereas with Webflow, like I think it was maybe 2 or 3 years after I started consistently building sites in Webflow, I had to make some edits to some like custom just HTML and CSS and stuff like that. And then I just clicked one day. I'm like, I can write HTML and CSS. I never learned to. I didn't watch a single video. I just could one day. And that is what I love so much about Webflow, and really any platform that isn't just teaching you their own proprietary way of doing things, but you're actually learning skills which can be applied far outside of that. So you started building sites in Webflow. What made you decide to start an agency? So I feel like a lot of people, like every second Webflow developer that you talk to is like, yeah, I'm going to start an agency. But not so many agencies become successful. Yours obviously did. And I think a lot of success is always geared back into the motives behind that. So like you find Webflow is pretty sweet. What led to you actually starting an agency?
Yeah, of course. That's a great question. I mean, I think that realistically, I was always an entrepreneur since I was young, because even if you see my history previously, that was not huge money, but whatever I wanted to do, like I was also throwing parties and making money out of that. Whenever there was an opportunity for me to make money, I tried to make the most out of it and to get cash out of it. So in general, I do really love the web. I have a passion, I mean, like for design, marketing, and development, but I also have a passion about the overall business. So that's why I think, let's say, our agency was able to get to like bigger heights, and like it was able to scale to like the point where it is at the moment, because it was never about I'm the best developer, I want to do things. It was always about, let me create a business. This is a really good business opportunity because one, I enjoy work. I'm passionate about what we're doing, but also it's a great opportunity for us. So we were always hyper optimizing everything inside of the business. And I was always, let's say, more focused on the business aspect of running the agency versus the creative aspect of running the agency and maybe service delivery and stuff like that. And I was trying to find people who are better than me in delivering services. And today, realistically looking at it, even our website, I would never be able to like design and develop the thing that we've designed and developed like today. And I'm the most proud person ever, versus maybe in some cases, some people who open up Webflow agencies are the best experts at that field. And they don't want to go to the business aspect because you have to completely forget everything which you loved, and you have to get into Google Sheets, and you have to look at Google Sheets every day and make decisions based on KPIs, and have a lot of meetings and have a lot of leadership and stuff like that. And not many people who are maybe so technical want to get into that, but that's the reality of running a successful business in the end.
Yeah, that is something everybody wants to be the boss. You know, what does it mean? You want to start a business, you want to be an entrepreneur. It's because it sounds cool. But one thing that I've realized, not everyone's built for it. Not like, oh, you're not built for it, you're not going to be successful. No, there are people who love what they do so much. I met a lot of Webflow developers who like, they go into Webflow, get into a trance, and then like 15 hours later, they've created the most beautiful thing, and they loved doing that. They might think, I want to start an agency, but you really love building websites. And if you really love building websites, own it. Become the best at it. Don't just think, okay, my step forward is building an agency. See, you are different. You, as from everything you've explained from your background, it's basically, how do I start something here that I can turn into something that's going to grow and make me money? That's what you're focused on optimizing. You, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Webflow is the means to an end. Whereas for some people, it's like their tool, their craft that they hone, and that's all they want to do. And so for anyone watching this, if you're considering starting an agency, honestly think, should you? Is it the business? Is it the optimizing? Is it the systems? Because you are going to be spending more time in Google Sheets than you are in Webflow. I've been there, you know that. And I realized, I'm like, this isn't for me. This is not, I like to build stuff like that I can see. I am not necessarily the ideas guy, the systems guy. I am the get in with an idea and build it. And when I took that pivot in my career is where things really started to take off, because I went, this is what I'm built for, and I'm going to do that. You did the same thing with starting an agency. So walk me through, in as little time as you can, because I know you could probably talk about this for like 5 hours. What's the story? You started Flow Ninja. At this point, you said over 60, 65 people.
Yeah, we have 50 full-time in-house, and we have some fun announcements to make about like the additional 15. So that's 65 people total.
Excellent. And you're also working with Flux now, which is super cool. Yeah. So if you want to see more of Uros, also check out the Flux channel. But what did that look like? I remember, I don't know if you remember, I think when I had my agency, we were looking for like white label partners. And I think I actually talked to you directly. And I think it was just you and your brother at the time, and seeing where things have gone since then. Like, Walk me through it. It was you and your brother at the beginning, right?
Yeah. So realistically, I mean, like, I'm the only founder of the business. So because me and my brother have the best relationship today, but we had the worst relationship beforehand. So we were kind of trying to start the agency together, but then he decided he's going to develop on his own. I'm going to do things on my own. And only a little bit later on did he decide to join for us full time and kind of to be our CTO. And like, he's also a partner of the company at the moment.
Yeah.
But that was also like an interesting take on also building up our family relationship through a business, because you spend so much time together that in the end, you just need to realize how both of you work together and that you can make some good things out of it. But yeah, I mean, since day one, I wouldn't say that I was not obsessed with money, but like money was means to an end for me. I always wanted to test things. And if that meant in me, let's say, blowing 100,000 euros on an initiative, which is gonna, let's say, return zero ROI, but I'm gonna be able to learn, I would be much more happy to do that versus to spend the money on myself and have to spend money on things. So that's a philosophy that we have in the business, like for a really long time. And we've made huge mistakes. So there's like a saying: if you want to make 1 million, you have to blow 100,000 euros. If you want to make 10 million, you have to blow 1 million euros on like stupid investments. So with us, since day one, we always wanted to find a way to grow. And we were just kind of looking at initiatives where we can spend money in order to grow. I mean, like, we had, let's say, boot camps, because we realistically coached almost all of our team members on how to do things. So because Serbia was a small place at that point, the market was not so developed for Webflow developers. So realistically looking at that, we kind of created boot camps where we had 4 to 5 people. We invested in them, and then later on they became our full-time staff, and they're with the company to this day. We invested in that. We invested in a lot of marketing campaigns. We invested into visiting all of our clients, and like whenever we sign a client that is a potential good network introduction, we sit on a plane, we go to the customer, we talk with them, we eat lunches, dinners, and like over the years, that resulted in us creating really great partnerships. So instead of, let's say, going step by step in everything that happened, I think that one philosophy that always stayed true in Flow Ninja was that we were always trying to find a unique way to approach growing the business, and we were not afraid to risk money and capital and our time in order to test things. And we were always working on the business. I mean, whatever we're doing, even right now, Q1 is the best Q1 ever. So we're going to be approaching 800,000 euros just in Q1. So like 800,000, maybe to 1 million, which is for me like an unbelievable sum. But I'm the most dissatisfied person ever, if you can say that, because I know what we need to do in order to continue that growth. So it's not like, hey, we have a lot of money, we have a lot of profits. It's like, how do we use this money to create a system in the agency that's going to allow us to continue that growth consistently? And that was always the case before. So like, there were bad times. We focused on how can we make them good. But there were also good times where we did not get the fame and success get to us. And we were just focused on, let's see what's the next part. And that also probably annoys my team a lot, because I say, yeah, this is great, but what about the next thing? Like, well, what about the next thing which is going to happen? And it's just realizing that it's never done. I mean, I was living in a fairy tale when I started the business, that I'm going to come to a point where the business is going to be organized and everything is just going to be smooth sailing. But you just have to figure out that you have to reinvent yourself on and on and on and on and on. As you're growing the business, and that is maybe the hardest part, to have the grit to reinvent the business every year. Because when you come to 7 people, things started breaking. Then you need to reinvent the business to come to 14 people. Then things started breaking. Then you come to 28. Then things started breaking. Then you come to 46. Then things started breaking. And then like maybe you're gonna be able to go to 80 to 100 of people or whatever. Or as the time is showing right now with AI, that you're maybe gonna come to 50. And that you need to trim down the team a little bit to keep only the best performers who know how to use AI inside of the organization, so that you can keep up with competition and that you don't bloat the organization itself. So there's always things to do in the company. And realistically, like, one of the reasons why we've had success is because we've always been in a lot of places where we can be lucky. Whenever we start a year, I'm like, hey guys, I want to get like 15 places where we can get lucky, that only if one of these work, our company is going to grow 30%. And realistically, every single time, every year, we've had, let's say, at least 5 those big initiatives that if they went well, we would get lucky and like we would, let's say, win in our agency growth. And that has compounded year over year, year over year, year over year. That whenever you have a lot of things every year, some of them you get lucky, they create leverage, and then you kind of start proceeding up and up and up and up and up.
That is something where if you are the kind of person who's made to be a CEO, you're never going to be satisfied. It just doesn't end, because that's what makes you good. That's what makes you capable of growth. The kind of person who would look and be like, oh, we made $1 million this year with decent profit margins. I'm doing okay. Now I can just sit on a beach. That kind of person is not the CEO. You can build something for yourself. But the thing is, like you said, when you're working with a lot of different people, there are always going to be big problems, big things to fix, big things to change. And another thing, you probably have a lot of people watching this who are, they just started an agency pretty recently. They're wondering where things are going to go. Does life feel different before and after you've, I guess I could say, become successful? Like what feels different and how does that meet your expectations? I'm sure growing up, you knew the position you were going to be in. It wasn't like, maybe if things go well. It's like, I know I'm going to do what I need to do to get in this spot. And I know at least me, I always thought that, life is just going to feel perfect and everything's going to be amazing after you get to that point that is your goal. And so something not enough people talk about is, how does that actually feel? Like, at what moment did you realize, shit, I'm successful? I did it, whatever it may be.
I think realistically, one of the things which is good, I know people say money doesn't make you happy, money doesn't make you X, Y, Z. But like when you have a house or like an apartment, a car, and you have money saved up for the next 1 or 2 years of your life, you just remove the anxiousness out of everything. And then like you stop being anxious about like, is this gonna work or whatever? Like, that you're safe and that your family's safe. And then you just have the fun part. But I wouldn't say that fun means that you're always happy. Fun for me is like, you have the fun part of a big problem. Then you're stressed about how you're going to fix it. You're motivated about fixing that. Then it starts working. Then you're happy because it's working, but then something else breaks. So then you're again frustrated. You're fixing it, and it's an endless cycle. So it's not like a feeling where you're in a fairy tale. I mean, like, you're still under stress, but you're just not anxious. And I like maybe the biggest thing that kind of changed with time is that I'm not anxious anymore. And that I know that me and my family are going to be okay. And like whatever happens, we're going to be able to kind of sustain ourselves. So it's really easy to remove that fear aspect, and everything else is just a game where it never stops playing. I mean, like I was talking on like with Ran Segal, where I've taken, let's say, 30 days off at the end of this year. And like in August last year, I did not work for 30 days also. And I thought that is the end game of like, hey, I'm going to make money. I'm going to be good. The agency is going to be organized and I'm not going to do anything. But you realize that after day 10th, you're like, what? I'm waking up, I'm eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And then I'm sleeping, and then I'm eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And you start going into depression, even though you're successful. But like, if you don't have a purpose or if you don't have something you're building, it doesn't necessarily have to be a business. Maybe somebody else wants to get a business to a point and then they want to get really passionate about something else. But in reality, I don't think that there's always going to be a place where you just feel successful and you just chill out. At least for me, it's more about, yes, I'm successful and right now I can do all of the things that I ever wanted to do. And I'm always going to feel that's part of me being annoyed that I can do better. And that's the thing which is going to allow you to wake up in the morning and to go to work or to do anything. Because if you lose that, then you start getting into a rut, and then life becomes a little bit more painful, at least for me. I mean, like that's how I look at it. And I know, what do you think on your front?
That is honestly probably the best explanation I've ever heard from it, is just the anxiety factor. It's so true. Like, you've not had money and you've had money. What in your life really changes? You're going to be driving a nicer car. You're going to be living in a nicer house, wearing nicer clothes, all this stuff. It's nice. And when people say money doesn't buy you happiness, that's what they're talking about. That stuff, it makes you a little happy at that point in time. Yeah. But like, that's not going to give you lasting happiness. But what people don't talk about that is actually going to give you lasting happiness is the fact that you can just wake up and feel like, if you are living paycheck to paycheck and you have a job, when you wake up, it's like, if I don't do good at work today, I could get fired. If I get fired, my family could not be eating today. You are living in an eternal state of dread because of that, financial state that you are in. And if you can find a way to escape that and just, depending on where you live, whatever amount of money that may be, get to that point of comfortability, you are able to focus so much more on the work that you do and are able to do it better. The thing is, a lot of people are stuck in a state where they can't escape from because, 80% of their mental energy is dedicated to like, am I going to eat tomorrow? Am I going to lose my job? Is this going to happen? Is that going to happen? When all this stuff is gone, you unlock a whole new portion of your brain that you didn't even know was there. And you can suddenly work better and faster than you've ever been able to because you have the mental energy to do so. And that, in my opinion, is happiness. That's another thing, growing up, I always think like, wow, people can just do something, build a company, and then just go like, piss off to the beach or something and not work again. That sounds fun. And to anyone who does this, I've heard the exact same thing. It is fun for a week, 2 weeks. And then after that, you're just bored. Like a lot of people talk about early retirement. What does early retirement mean? From what I can understand from what you said, and I feel the exact same way, I don't want to stop building until I'm dead. Whatever that may be, maybe it's not a business. Maybe it's not a product. Maybe it's, you want to become the best mountain biker in the world. But like, if you don't have a purpose, how are you functioning? I want to take a step back, by the way, to what you mentioned about those boot camps. So I don't know if you know this, you probably know this. If you look up Webflow on Google Trends, you will notice that there is one country in which Webflow is far more popular than anywhere else in the world. What country is that?
I don't know. Tell me.
Serbia.
Okay.
Serbia is by far, like per capita, obviously there's not very many people in Serbia, but per capita, there are more people using Webflow, at least according to Google Trends, in Serbia than anywhere else. And having lived in Serbia for so long, I still have my house there and everything. We got to catch up, by the way. But, I know if I walk into a crowd of younger people and I say, like, I work in the Webflow space, that almost all of them know what that means. It's like if you're somewhere else in the world and you say, you know what WordPress is? Yeah, I've heard of that. In Italy, where I'm at now, if I say Webflow to someone, they have no idea what that means. Same thing in the US, in Canada, anywhere. Whereas in Serbia, it's huge. And the amount of people that I have met, not only, you've met a lot of them because you've hired a lot of them, like who have entirely changed their lives. And my question is, and not necessarily anything you could even answer here, but how did that happen? Like, I think that you as an individual are probably the main driving force behind that. And that has changed the lives of, hundreds of young people in Serbia, which is just amazing to see. So like beyond okay, look, it's cool for anyone. I grew up in Canada, let's say started a company in Canada, hired some people there with jobs they otherwise could have had. That's amazing. That's all well and good. But like I'm sure a lot of the people who work for you, basically they would have been in a situation where they're working, in a store making like 600-700 euros a month. And now they're able to build an actual career where they can grow and they can give their family a life that they never thought was possible. So like, how does that feel, having genuinely changed the lives of hundreds of people? Like, anything. What do you think?
I don't know, like sometimes people were telling me like, why are you doing this? Like you have such a great business. Like you should just, not be quiet about it, but just kind of shut up and like put your head down and like, I don't know, like don't talk about it because it's a great business. Maybe you would have more business for you only like if you don't have competition. But I don't think that there is like a higher level of purpose that I want to like in terms of kind of how I'm approaching everything. And that's why I also decided to join Flux and kind of to produce videos there is, I want to help more people, let's say maybe get to at least 1% of what I have on my side. And the only way I can do that is if I talk about it. And maybe my small, let's say, altruism movement is to fix the business mindset in Serbia, because we technically come from a communist place where people were used to getting a job and having that job for the next 50 years, retiring, and then just kind of enjoying life that way. Not a lot of them were super happy with it or whatever, but like that was just the norm of kind of how people approach life. And in order for anything to change in our country, if you ask me personally, I think that we need to, let's say, understand that we can control our own fate with our careers. Like, it doesn't have to be a business, but like with careers, that we have to embrace capitalism as a whole, in order to kind of have any developments and in order to have kind of like better states for us. And I always like to start with me and what can I do. And I'm always happy if I can, as you mentioned, help 100 people around me, well, like have like better lives, then I'm happy about it, and that's where I'm gonna stop. I'm not gonna try to do like any crazy things that are outside of my area, or I'm not gonna complain about the country because I like living here. I'm just gonna do things every day when I wake up, which are gonna make the country better, and hopefully that's gonna allow for more people to have jobs, to have careers, and to in general maybe join Webflow or join anything else, or just kind of get inspired and start their own business. Based on kind of like based on the inspiration story. And I did, tell my story since I was 21, something like that, 21, 22. I went on all podcasts. Even today, every month I host at least one talk somewhere in Serbia where I give my story, where I inspire people that it can happen, so that more and more success stories come out of the country, and like that we show the world that we can be good in business, but also in sports, but that we can beat like things on the sports side, but we can beat them also in business, which is, I think, a fun thing to have on the side, and which is, again, the direct thing to what you said of, hey, you need to have a higher purpose. And yes, having a business, building a business is great, but at one point you need to realize, okay, why am I building this? And just knowing that, okay, we're having Flow Ninja, like, technically it's for our team. I love seeing them grow. I like seeing them develop as people of companies. Like, we're providing a business need where we have WebOps kind of as a service, like all the website operations that we handle kind of for businesses. But for me personally, if I can tell my story to Flux, if I can teach people how to start an agency, maybe they're not going to start a Webflow agency, but they're going to start whatever agency today, they're going to be able to have better lives. And maybe there is a karma bucket somewhere in the world where I provide a lot of good that gets filled up, and then it gets spilled back kind of at our company and kind of at my life, that I can have better things happening on my side as well.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's such a good goal. Just from what I know about Serbia, I mean, a lot of people who are watching this who haven't grown up in, I guess, countries that are in similar situations. I mean, Serbia was communist for quite a while, and it was only, if I'm not mistaken, less than 30 years ago that changed. And the way that looks, just to give a super simple example to anyone who doesn't know that. So my neighbor in Serbia, he's an older guy, Moler, does walls and stuff like that. And I was talking to him one day, and he's like, this type of job I don't want to do. It was like fixing up around windows when you do them. I said, why? He goes, it's really difficult and it doesn't pay well. He's like, nobody wants to do it. Nobody can even find someone to do it. I'm like, well, Marco, why don't you just charge more for it? He's like, nobody's going to pay that. Like, but they need workers. No, but that's not the price. Like this, that might sound normal to you. I'm sure you've heard so many similar, takes. But to me, I'm just thinking, coming from a country which has been capitalist for its entire existence, it's like, no, there's supply, raise the demand. And I think the younger generation, like, let's say people 30 and under in Serbia, are such a unique group. I think they are some of the smartest people in the world that are capable of insane things. You can see in sports, obviously, most people who know about Serbia only know it because of sports. Yeah. Because they know Jokic, like there's so many people. But now I think in business, you have a generation which is honestly going to do insane things. And I think you are just such a good example of that. I love how you're trying to spread that, because I think a big thing for a lot of people in Serbia and in many, many other countries is they don't see these examples. How can I do it? But when, a similar kid from Niš who has big dreams grows up and they see what you're capable of doing, even just seeing that you've done it, not even hearing how or anything like that, is, could completely change their life, because it's like, he came from where I came from. He can do it. So can I. So I think that is awesome. I love how you're doing that. And the next thing that I really want to talk about here is everyone obviously in our industry is seeing that AI is changing a lot of different things in many different ways. And seeing that and how that plays out in, I guess, a bigger level. It's one thing when you're just an individual Webflow developer with some clients, but like you guys have a ton of big clients. So I think my first question for you is, when did you start to notice AI? As in, we've all heard people talking about AI since, 15 years ago, like some sci-fi futuristic, not going to happen thing. And then eventually it was like, okay, I got to start taking note of this. When did you personally start actually noticing AI?
I think that was realistically maybe I think 3 or 4 years ago when I was on a ski trip and I was like, you're on the gondola and like you're kind of scrolling your phone and there is I think the startup that afterwards failed that was building AI websites that had like a lot of Indian developers. But at that point, that was the story that this is the next big thing that you can build a website with AI in 5 minutes. And I was like, just enjoying my vacation. And then I see this and I'm getting anxious. It's like, did everything that I just built for the last, 3 or 4 years, is everything just going to disappear because this company is promising to do everything that we want to just with AI? And that's kind of how I first learned maybe a little bit more deeply about like that AI is coming. And then with time, I actually started realizing that the biggest problem today is what we have is there's a lot of people that can say things. And you cannot vouch for anything that they're saying. And that everybody's like looking for the best click-through rate and like the best watch time for videos. So then with time, I realized, yes, AI is going to change everything, but it's not going to change it in a way where of kind of everything that people are saying on YouTube videos and like Instagram and whatever. Because everybody's just trying to get the views and everybody's maybe trying to sell you a course on the back end. That things are going to change tomorrow and you should adapt. And like that sometimes gets me anxious versus in reality, yes, things are going to change drastically, but you're going to have time pass by before they get actually implemented. And AI cannot do everything. And like people who have been doing real good work for big companies know that like doing the work is just part of it. Like you have a lot of things like in terms of management, relations, and I don't know, like there's a gazillion of things that happen inside of an agency with a customer that need to be met, which AI is not going to do. And even with that, I have things in my life which I can do on my own, which I pay people to do, even though I know that it's pretty easy. So even if AI takes over everything and you can create a website in 2 prompts, people are still going to pay somebody to do those 2 prompts as an expert and to deliver the best possible service. So with all of that said, it's going to change a lot, I think, but I feel like that maybe some people who are just figuring out about AI today are maybe in a state which I was 3 or 4 years ago, where they're just kind of shaking and like they're paralyzed instead of figuring out how to create bridges. I kind of have a philosophy of maybe even in politics that it's much better to create bridges because you cross a bridge, then something is good. Then you cross a bridge, then something is good. So you slowly build up your career. Versus some people just get terrified and stand in front of the river and they're like, I'm done. I'm not going to do anything. And they just stop there because they've heard that AI is going to change everything. So they become paralyzed for 3 years and then they don't learn anything. They don't do anything and they just stay where they are at the moment.
That is true. That's the exact way that I see it. That's the exact view that I'm trying to echo more and more is like, there's 2 sides of this. On one hand, this is absolutely going to change everything about everything that we do. Don't ignore that. I see certain Webflow developers kind of like, I think they kind of see it, get scared, and their reaction is denial of like, no, AI is stupid. You're not actually going to use this. This sucks. That's on one hand. And on the other side, it's not just going to be an overnight apocalypse. We have clear data to prove this. Look, you mentioned WordPress, for example. How many people are still using WordPress? There's been better options, for a while. WordPress I have, love-hate relationship with, but like Drupal. People are still using Drupal. I don't know if you've ever had to use Drupal. If any Drupal
migrate off of Drupal, I know, yeah.
Oh, it's garbage. But people are still using it today. My point is, no matter what happens, even if you can go ahead and create a better site than what you've created in Webflow in 2 prompts, things don't change that quickly. But more importantly, the way I see it, just like you said, there are a lot of things that you could do, but you pay other people to do them because you don't want to do them. Maybe because, like you said, with design and stuff, there are better people than you at it. Whether it's writing 2 prompts, whatever it may be, you can always find someone better than you. And something that people don't talk about enough is like, anyone can create a website now with AI. Anyone's been able to create a website for like ever at this point. Yeah. Wix, Squarespace, hello. There are so many, both you and I were creating websites as children.
Yeah.
Nobody was paying us to do so. Anyone can create a website. So why aren't they? Why isn't Upwork's website just a Squarespace site? That was just done by someone in their company because it's so easy and anyone can make a website now. Because here's the thing, you can show your grandmother a website that's just awful and say, look, grandma, I made this website. She'll say, it's beautiful, honey. I love it. But if you show, your lead designer that website, they're going to say this looks like shit. And so even if anyone can do it and anyone possesses the tools to do so, the only person who's going to be able to do stuff at a professional level is the person who cares and the person who knows what's good and they know what's bad. And so that's exactly what I'm trying to echo to everyone here. I'm really glad to hear you say the same thing. It's don't, look the other way. This is serious. Things are changing. However, don't be so scared. You have nothing to be scared of. If you're a web professional, web professionals will exist as long as the internet exists. The only time we're gone is if the internet is gone, and we're going to have far bigger problems to deal with at that point. So very glad to hear you say that. And I guess Flow Ninja as a whole, and I want to dig into the rebrand. You have a big, beautiful logo behind you. But first I want to ask, what is Flow Ninja change, if anything, as a company in order to, let's say, keep up?
I mean, let's say practically everybody in the company has Claude, so that's an additional expense maybe, but whatever, like whether that's going to be Claude code of kind of for people to develop and like for people to become full stack. So that's again, like next to everybody in the company from sales, marketing, developers getting access to Claude, we're slowly changing the roles where I wouldn't say we're not going to have a Webflow developer role, but it's more of a, let's say, Webflow engineer or like a full stack engineer or whatever, because it's expected of you that you can solve anything. Previously, if you were a Webflow developer, you can just develop things, and maybe you have a JS developer you can tap into to help you out. You have a backend engineer who's going to set up your database. So you tap people's shoulders and you have 5 people that are going to help you for things. Right now, we're expecting, let's say, of our development team to go ahead and use Claude Code and to do everything. So you're going to be getting a project. You have full ownership. You need to know how to set up a database. You need to know how to develop custom items, and like you're going to use Claude for all of that. And Claude is going to be able to teach you live how to set up all of those things. But you're going to need to be more full stack. When it comes to designers, they're going to need to be more full stack in terms of not understanding a little bit more about branding, marketing, and like positioning, and like that you have taste. And as you mentioned, that taste is your competitive edge with AI, so that designers can actually kind of do a lot more than just design pretty things, because anybody can, like AI can design pretty things. You need to start understanding how does that impact the users and to have the overall bigger picture. And we are maybe changing our trajectory in terms of hiring, where we're focusing a little bit more on efficiency and client relations, and like getting integrated with clients a lot more to understand what are all of the things we can help them with, instead of focusing on becoming the biggest kind of Webflow agency out there. And then at one point, maybe there's a smaller agency which uses AI, which can do things 10 times faster. So on our front, like focus is on efficiency and ensuring that we're not bloated as a company and that we can deliver all the results properly. And unfortunately, that means that everybody in the company has to transform again and has to do things faster and has to know like more things in it than they knew previously.
I think that is awesome. And I think that's something any company can apply, really. It's like, if you don't know, for example, you guys have a process. I know you're very serious about the process that you use in actually building sites for your clients. A lot of companies you see right now, I'm just going to give a really random example, whether or not it's a good idea, I don't know.
Yeah.
Bubble. We know Bubble, it's like a no-code app builder for the most part. They completely transformed their messaging. It's like, oh, this is how you build apps with AI now. They completely changed their company overnight. Generally, was that a good idea for them? I have literally no idea. But generally speaking, I don't think companies should do that. I think you have what you've been building. You have your competitive advantage. You can evolve it over time, but keep it. But how do you implement AI at your companies so that you're not falling behind, so that everybody knows what's going on? Is, I think, exactly that. Just get everyone access to Claude and say, hey, we expect you more now because you're a designer. 2 years ago, I never would have asked you to develop something or make a little prototype, just the design. But you can do that now. And I have, higher expectations of you, my employee, because we're giving you tools that enable you to do anything. And that's a way that you can really, I guess, organically let AI spread throughout your company instead of trying to force it in where it doesn't belong. Very smart. I think that is how any company should go about implementing AI at this point in time. And my final one for you really is, so, I've had an agency before. You have an agency. You have a lot of friends who own agencies. Agencies love rebranding, like constantly, like every year, like we have a new website, we have a new this, we have a new that, all the time. And every time I see it as like, okay, cool, but you guys are just kind of having fun with this. It's a group of marketers, designers, developers who want to, show their balls, to say the least, be like, look what I got, look what we can make. So when I looked at your guys' rebrand, I'm like, I'm expecting right off the bat, it's another agency rebrand. But when I was reading a little bit more, it looks like you guys really put a lot of thought behind it and are really doing it to, I guess, future-proof yourselves and solidify who you are as a business. So it's a really purpose-driven rebrand. And I would love, and I think everyone else would love to hear too, why. First of all, what made you think, okay, we kind of need to, I guess, not necessarily reinvent, but solidify who we are? What led to that decision initially? And then walk me a little bit through the rebranding, how that went. And yeah, I'm excited to hear it.
Yeah, of course. I mean, like, one side is, yes, you see the fancy aspects. I mean, like, in terms of the new logo and everything like that. So that's one part of it. But the other part is me trying to future-proof the business long-term. And like, this is a huge bet that we've made because we have a lot of people who were involved in the process, and like, time will tell, is it a good thing or not? But realistically, we first have done a lot of interviews with our customers, and we tried understanding why do they like working with us, and like, why are they sticking to working with us? And I mean, like, things which were kind of always kind of apparent, like with that, were like speed, empathy. I mean, a lot of agencies say they're fast, but they're not fast. Empathy. A lot of agencies are cocky agencies, which are just going to be like, as you mentioned, showing their balls off. And like, whenever a client has a new request, they're going to be, this is more money. We don't care. We're not going to like work overtime or anything like that. So like, they genuinely said like, you genuinely care about their business. Partnership was also a big thing. And maybe the final thing is like website operations. And like, that's why we kind of created a category of WebOps, because if we're selling ourselves as a Webflow agency and only as a Webflow agency, customers are going to look at us only as a vendor and like as somebody who's going to be doing the Webflow part. Versus realistically, we have about 50-60% of revenue coming from ongoing retainers. And those ongoing retainers don't come just because we just do development, because realistically, we have a pod structure where we have a team lead, we have a QA, we have an account manager, project manager, we have a developer, we have a designer, we have SEO, content, illustration, animation, whatever you can think about for the website, we do it. And that's a bigger part of website operations. And I think that's the bigger problem we're solving for customers, because sometimes it's not even us doing the strategy. Customers are doing the strategy, but you just need so many different roles in order to put the strategy back into your website. And if you're a CMO or a head of marketing, you don't want to go ahead and kind of try to find an animator. You're not going to try to find like a content writer or whatever and coordinate between 10 different agencies. Where we saw like that our customers like it is that they can get everything under the same roof. It's, of course, on one side cheaper, but it's also faster, and it ensures that they know, hey, Flow Ninja is managing our website. We can have maybe somebody managing our paid campaigns and media buying and whatever, and we can have somebody else manage like different parts of the business. But because in reality, sometimes we get to a point where head of marketing or like marketing people are worrying just about the website, but in reality, that's just 20% of their work. They have so many more things they need to do in their role in order to be successful at their company and in order to grow today. So we just want to show that we can handle all the web ops kind of on our front, that we're going to own the website as a marketing asset, and we're going to help them unlock more revenue through the website by having it as a marketing asset. And that was the biggest thing that we wanted to show. And we wanted to show kind of how we're different than other agencies with the rebrand, because saying you can do everything is one thing, but scaling a company which can do things at that level is much harder. Which I mean, like, if you have one customer, yeah, you can do everything. But if you have 50 customers like us, providing a good level service kind of for something like that is pretty hard. So that's why on the other side of the back end, we're slowly acquiring small percentages in other agencies, so that even we as a bigger company can, let's say, maybe focus on like Webflow, account management, and ensuring that customers are happy, but that we can also provide all of the other services like AEO, SEO, content, branding, design, and everything like that through specialized agencies, which are also nimble and small, which do amazing work through us directly to customers. So it's an interesting time, and hopefully we're getting that message across. So I don't know, what did you think from your perspective when you were kind of hearing about our rebrand and kind of how we're positioning on the market and why we're kind of changing our messaging and stuff like that?
I loved it. It made a lot of sense to me. WebOps, as you guys I feel like almost like I've heard that before, but I haven't. Like, did you guys come up with that?
Yeah, I mean, it's there is a term on Google, but it means something different. So that's what we kind of found out with interviews with our customers, because we saw that like some of our customers actually had a WebOps manager. So it's like a website operations manager or whatever. So we're like, but customer actually has maybe a person which is like on a 70K payroll paying for somebody just to manage the website and all the vendors for the website and like all the things coming in and out. So that's where we first heard the term. And the more I started talking about it, the more I realized that that is actually what we do. Because if you say, hey, we do website design and development, then you have to say, hey, we do strategy, design, development, content, you have to do 20 different words versus WebOps for me. I mean, like, hopefully, like the world is going to think the same way. It's like all the website operations that happen for a single website. And there's a lot of things that need to happen long term. That's going to be analytics and many, many different things.
To me, I thought it made perfect sense as soon as I saw the word web, because I know what DevOps is. And so thinking DevOps, okay, WebOps, basically we are the team that is going to deal with all of the operations, the management, the execution, everything for all of your everything on the web. I think that is very clear, very smart, and perhaps most importantly, very future-proof, in the sense of, if you are saying we're a Webflow agency, then exactly, if I'm your client, I would be thinking, okay, I'll call these guys for anything to do with Webflow.
Yeah.
What if we perhaps don't want to use Webflow anymore? Or, of course, even if we are, we still need a lot of other things. So then I would think, okay, I'm going to leave this agency because they're a Webflow agency and we want to do other stuff. Where you position yourself as WebOps, it's basically saying, everything that you need, we can help you for. If there's new technology, we're going to help you. You need a new hire, we're going to help you. Like, we are going to expand as your business needs it. That was what I immediately saw. I think that is a really smart, like, it's an evolution, not a drastic one. It's like a consolidation. And I think, let me know if you agree with this or not. The biggest takeaway is that what you did was you actually figured out, why do our clients like us? Because every agency, just like you said, they're reliable and they're your friendly partner and they help you with everything and they're this and that. Okay, fine. Everyone is like that. So if you use that as your positioning, you're just one in the crowd. Whereas every agency has something, whatever, it's a result of the team and who the team is. If your clients feel like, I love you guys because I can bring you an idea and I'm going to get like a full-fleshed, it's going to be perfect, exactly what I want it to, use that. Focus on the fact that you are the partner to take idea to execution. If your clients love you because you manage everything to do with their web presence, WebOps, I think this is how people should look at branding, instead of like, how do we make ourselves look cool? It's like, no, why are people paying us? Not why do we think, but let's actually ask them. So I think that's super smart. Uros, this has been phenomenal. I think quite a few people are going to watch this and learn a ton for the future. Do you have any final words, especially for the group of people who's just getting into our industry right now?
Don't think that you're behind on everything. I think that right now, even like if somebody is building an AI native company, you're maybe in a better spot than some companies which are bigger, because we're working with one of our customers. They're kind of changing one of the industries, like, because we're under NDA, and they're changing the industry because they're an AI native company. They can do so much more things with 50 people compared to some, let's say, enterprises which have thousands of people, just because they started a fresh company in today's age, and that they can build all their processes around AI and all of their deployment for the app, for software around AI. So I think that ensuring that you're not scared when you're going into this, but that you actually leverage AI as part of your workflow, and that you can build your company on top of AI, versus all of the other companies need to rethink themselves within, and that's probably going to slow them down. That's probably going to be your competitive edge when you're entering the market.
That was a very unexpected knowledge drop. I agree with that so much. Like, companies that are trying to pivot themselves right now, it's difficult. They have a big advantage because they've already been in the industry, but at the same time, it's very, very difficult to take a big complex structure and turn it into something lean. So I agree with that 100%. Possibly never a better time to start because you immediately have a big edge over the large companies. That was amazing. Thank you so much, Uros. Thank you for making the time, and I look forward to seeing you at FlowCon.
Thank you so much for inviting me, and it's always a great time to talk to you.